Okay, so Mother's Day is just around the corner.
Right.
And for a lot of people, that can bring up some tricky feelings.
Definitely. Especially when it comes to, relationships with a partner's mother. Not always smooth sailing.
Not at all. It can feel like, yeah, less of a walk in the park, maybe more like an obstacle course.
Uh-huh. That's a good way to put it.
We heard about this situation, actually, that I think really rings true for many. Someone facing just like constant criticism from their partner's mom.
Ah, the classic scenario, even when they're trying their best.
Exactly. This person, let's call them our learner, they were really going the extra mile, planned a whole trip, tried to include the mother-in-law,
Okay.
who, let's just say, had a real talent for finding fault. Kind of a queen of critique.
I think we all know someone who fits that description, maybe.
Right. She just had this knack, apparently, for spotting the negative, even in something really specific like how our learner chose to read.
Reading. How so?
Well, apparently, reading to learn things, technology, medicine, that sort of stuff, that wasn't considered real reading.
Oh, what was real reading then?
Only reading for fun, for leisure. That was the only type that counted in her book.
Wow. That's quite a judgment. Dismissing someone's interests like that.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, like, what's behind that?
It does. It could be, her own ideas about what's valuable knowledge, or maybe even insecurity. It feels
Yeah.
very personal, that kind of critique.
Totally. And here's the kicker. Despite all the effort, the trip planning, being financially stable, being informed, it never seemed good enough.
Always moving the goalposts.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
So after feeling just constantly put down, our learner finally, stood up for themselves during that trip.
Good for them. Maybe. What happened?
Well, that's the tough part. While setting that boundary might sound like the right move, the consequence was huge. It actually led to the end of the relationship with their partner.
Ooh. See, that's where it gets so complicated, doesn't it? Challenging those dynamics, even the really negative ones,
Yeah.
it can cause these massive ripples. And it often forces the partner into a terrible position, like they have to choose sides.
Exactly. So thinking about Mother's Day coming up, it really brings this question into focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? Should our learner or anyone in that spot have just sucked it up, prioritized family harmony, even if it meant feeling disrespected all the time?
Or was setting that boundary, even with the painful result, the right thing for their own, sanity, their well-being?
It's a huge question. What would you do in that situation?
Well, if you look at how people tend to handle this, you kind of see two main paths emerge.
Okay.
One, you could call it the diplomatic route, prioritize keeping the peace.
Try to rise above the negativity.
Exactly. The idea is like, don't engage with the criticism. Maybe your actions speak louder than words. Especially on a day like Mother's Day, you just try to keep things smooth, avoid the stress.
Yeah. Right, that sort of grin and bear it for the sake of the holiday approach. Let it slide. Hope maybe it blows over if you don't react.
Precisely. Your calmness becomes its own statement in a way.
Okay, so that's one way. What's the other?
The other is more, well, let's call it the boundary-focused path, much firmer.
Okay.
This way really emphasizes that your well-being matters. You're actually not obligated to just sit there and take disrespect.
Regardless of who it's from or what day it is.
Right. It doesn't matter if it's Mother's Day or Tuesday. Disrespect is disrespect.
So this is more about self-respect, protecting your mental health.
Yeah. The thinking is that constant criticism, it really wears you down. And sometimes setting clear boundaries is the most loving thing you can do for yourself.
Even if it means creating distance.
Even if it means distance, or like in the learner's case, it leads to a major relationship shift. It's about knowing your limits and enforcing them.
So when you boil it down, it's this fundamental clash, isn't it? Between wanting that family unity, which always feels stronger around holidays,
The pressure is on.
and needing to protect yourself, your own emotional health.
Exactly. Mother's Day just highlights that tension perfectly because of its focus on those family bonds.
So as we head towards the holiday, it really is something to think about. Are you willing, maybe, to step back from family stuff that's just toxic for you,
Yeah.
even if it disrupts the usual holiday plans?
Or, on the flip side, is keeping that idea of family unity together worth the personal cost? Worth enduring feeling, pretty awful?
It forces you to ask, what does respect really mean in these relationships?
Right.
What are your non-negotiables?
Yeah, definitely no easy answers there. Something important to consider for yourself.